This episode of Colon Meet Cancer is about pain, and I preface it with a literary reference, because, after all, what else is literature good for if not human suffering in all its technicolor glory? I am a voracious reader, but I'm limited in my range because I really need to get to know an author I like. Everything that's written by them, even if there's the odd duffball amongst their work, even down to decent biographies about them. So I'm more about depth than width, if you get my drift. The jackpot for me was at the age of 18 when I discovered that the most comprehensive biography of Aldous Huxley is written by another author I admire, Sybil Bedford. But the quote to kick off this episode is from the Canadian author Margaret Atwood. It's a bit cheeky and perhaps not her most profound, but that does not detract that she is, to my mind, the world's greatest living writer in the English language. One of her characters says in Bluebeard's Egg, "Men are not to be told anything that they might find painful. The secret depths of human nature, the sordid physicalities might overwhelm or damage them. For instance, men often faint at the sight of their own blood, to which they are not accustomed. For this reason, you should never stand behind one in the line at the Red Cross donor clinic." See, I'm quite proud of how rugged and thick-jawlined I can be when it comes to the sight of my own blood. I always watch the phlebotomist as they draw blood samples, secretly judging them and comparing their proficiency, how much or how little pain they cause. Yesterday's lab tests was a case in point. I didn't feel a thing, despite copious quantities of the red stuff being decanted into about 6 or 7 small test tubes. So, imagine how shocked I was at how agitated I became at the start of a recent inpatient procedure to install my chemotherapy port. Long and short of it, I am now hardwired to a port, a small, triangular platform that rests just under my skin on my chest, and which connects to a vein via a catheter that was just inserted above the port, in either my subclavian or superior vena cava vein, I don't know which. And even after 2 weeks, it still aches, and the hole the surgeon made in my vein still stings. But that's not the heart of it. I was, in a spiral, an increasing spiral of agitation, as I realized I did not know what was going on. I had briefed myself online with people's courageous stories that the insertion of the port didn't hurt or didn't hurt much. And I was fascinated by the trend to have tattoos. Over the scar made by the insertion and removal of the port once treatment was successfully completed. Some of the designs were quite beautiful, eerily so. But that distraction meant that I hadn't fully educated myself on the procedure itself. The surgeon's nurse assistant placed 2 sheets over my body, a plastic sheet and then above it a blanket of the same material that one uses for dogs' pee-pee pads, and it was erected over me with a plastic tubular frame, and the nurse asked me to close my eyes, and I could still feel everything, and I felt myself losing it. I had visions of the surgeon striking my jugular with a stake and blood uproariously jetting everywhere, hence obviously the need for the sheets, splattering gore all over the equipment and the staff and the entire operating room in the style of a schlock horror movie. I could still feel, I was still conscious, and I started panicking that they would conduct this barbaric assault on my body with my feeling every single slash and cut. So I said, "Hello, I'm still here. Did you forget the sedative? Did you forget to sedate me?" The anaesthetologist laughed and he said to me, "What, you don't want to continue listening to the classic rock we have playing on the speaker?" And I feebly replied, "It depended on how long I had to wait for a track from the Electric Light Orchestra." Laughs all round. I heard him say 50 over 20, a reference to the heavy sedatives they were about to inject, and then nothing. Out for the count. And I woke up as a cyborg. So that's the most recent experience of pain and the fear of pain. But more broadly, I think pain, the experience of it and the fear of it, they're the things that concern me most as I embark on this cancer story. It has been intriguing to me that I have found it so difficult to describe the phenomenon to the healthcare workers caring for me. The numerical rating scale that Kaiser uses, you rate your pain between 1 and 10. Well, it's been hard for me to place myself on this scale, as I have over the last few decades educated my body to tolerate the intestinal, the joint, and the fatigue pain that comes with Crohn's disease flare-ups, and even when I am in complete remission, does not entirely leave me. So I consciously took this approach because A, the medications for Crohn's disease used to be so hit and miss, and B, I took to heart the advice of a nurse who once advised me that the best way to deal with Crohn's was to power through it, and C, I'm British, so I'm reluctant to express any emotion, including pain. So a pain that is probably more 6 or 7, I present, and maybe I genuinely do experience, as a 3 or 4. And when I now say to the Kaiser medical staff that my pain levels are at 7 or 8, I am in fact saying that I'm in a lot of pain. But does it actually capture what I'm expressing and what I'm feeling? Is it an accurate representation of how much pain I'm feeling? Am I underreporting it? Or am I overcompensating because of my history with Crohn's disease? I want to blame the English language for having inadequate terminology to describe pain. But in preparing for this episode, I followed the white rabbit down an internet hole to learn more about how pain has been understood and expressed in different cultures across different centuries. Well, that didn't help much. What did resonate with me, though, was stumbling across descriptions of Renaissance painting techniques, particularly egg tempera and underpainting. Egg tempera, whereby egg yolk is incorporated into the pigment and water is added, which are then brushed into thin layers on the canvas. The technique would be used in underpainting, which is about creating blocks of first darker paint, onto which are added further layers of lighter, more transparent paint to create depth, lustrousness and light. Now, what on earth has egg tempera and underpainting got to do with colorectal cancer pain? Well, rather than a range of numbers, I have found it easier to describe my pain in terms of layers. At the base, the dark blocks of paint are the dull, melancholic aches of an immune system in turmoil, always present and experienced, sometimes more visible, sometimes less so. And even when medication takes the edge off that pain, it is still there, a ghostly echo reverberating around my body. On top of that come different layers, twitching in different parts of my abdomen, for example, particularly on the right side, or an angry array of little knives stabbing outward to create short, sharp stabs of a deep pain. On top of that come different layers. First up, twitching in different parts of my abdomen, particularly on the right side. Or an angry little array of knives stabbing outwards to create short stabs of a sharper pain. Or else an all-consuming, loud pain, again, usually on the right side of my intestines, so bright it almost cowers all the other pains into its shadows. And on top of it, a sheen or gloss caused by fatigue, exhaustion, that comes in waves or mists or clouds, blurring my thoughts and causing me to nod off and wake up, often in more short stabs of pain. These layers of pain have been increasing in depth and frequency in recent months, and as I said on a previous episode, I had put them down to the symptoms of Crohn's disease. But it has been the fatigue that has bothered me most and made me realise that something was amiss. I have never been a late-night party animal, although there was that occasion, Christmas 1995, and an all-nighter at a London nightclub called Substation South, but you can ask my friend Andy Seal about that. My lips remain sealed. No, I'm normally quite happy to be in bed with a glass of water and a good audiobook by 9:30 p.m. What I am not quite happy about is dragging my sorry ass to bed at midday for an early siesta that runs until around 3 p.m, leaving me more exhausted than when I closed my eyes. Now, the good old NIH website, not yet totally overwhelmed with fringe conspiracies and promoting magic leashes and bloodletting, has some interesting definitions of the different kinds of pain. They aren't the same as the ones I've described, but I'll include the reference in the show notes, and one useful observation stands out. Research shows that factors and changes in the body, biological, the mind, psychological, and a person's experiences with others, along with conditions in their environment, social, are all contributors to an individual's experience of pain. For this reason, pain is known as a biopsychosocial experience. In other words, it, like the cancer treatment regimen I'm about to embark upon, can be best defined as yet another case of everything everywhere all at once, maybe. And it shows how little we actually know about the experience. Leads you to wonder how many current studies funded by the NIH into the causes and expressions of pain have been cancelled. I am attempting to manage the pain I am feeling, and note, I am not able to eliminate that pain, by a reliance on a good old pain relief, acetaminophen, which in English is called paracetamol. The maximum over-the-counter dose is set at 1 gram per day, and I'm allowed to take up to 4 grams a day, 2 grams in the morning and 2 grams at night, which is 4 pills of 500 milligrams for each dose. I have quite a soft spot for paracetamol. My parents used to swear by it. They would routinely take a 500 milligram tablet each with their afternoon tea, somewhat as you would a digestive biscuit or a slice of cake. And although at extremely high doses it can cause a lot of problems, it is more of a friend or a kind relative than anything else. Does it ease the pain? Honestly, I don't really know. I think it smooths the rough edges, but not the deep ghostly pain, and it leaves a bitter, maybe metallic taste in my mouth. I can't take ibuprofen. A rare but serious side effect is gastrointestinal bleeding or ulceration, so it's not recommended for people with Crohn's disease or indeed anyone with sensitive stomachs. I have also been prescribed a small dose of oxycodone. I took half a pill, 2.5 milligrams, and it had no impact whatsoever. So I upped the dose to the 1 full pill, and it made me tired. And it took the edge off many of the layers of pain, but did not, just like acetaminophen on its own, remove it entirely. Now, I could take up to 10 milligrams, that is to say 2 pills, according to the label, but I haven't. And why not, you might ask? Well, of course, it is highly addictive, and I still want to power through as much of the pain as I can for as long as I can. And at heart, that is because I still need to feel the pain colorectal cancer is causing me, as proof, as if it were needed, that I truly have cancer. Oxycodone has its roots in opium, like morphine and codeine, but it is partially synthetically synthesized in laboratories in order to mimic the effects of naturally derived opiates. But to repeat, it is highly addictive like all opiates. It differs from OxyContin only in that OxyContin is the infamous brand-named extended-release version of that drug. What may not be commonly known is that oxycodone, discovered in Germany in 1916, was the Wehrmacht's battlefield analgesic drug of choice during the early years of the Second World War. It was also used in very high doses of part of a lethal injection to kill prisoners who were dressed in Polish uniforms and left during Operation Himmler, the false flag operation the Nazis conducted at the end of August 1939 to provoke their invasion of Poland and the start of the Second World War. So, oxycodone has a complex history, and another reason at this stage to treat it with gloves. The final piece in my pain management armamentarium. Ooh, what a horrid word, by the way. I shouldn't use military terminology. Anyway, the final piece of the pain management puzzle, that's much better, is the antidepressant duloxetine, brand name Cymbalta, which I have recently started taking more as prophylaxis for my mental health than anything else. But it is also prescribed for pain relief in certain settings, and it has certainly helped to deepen the effects of acetaminophen. This, therefore, is where I stand as I manage the effects of cancer growing inside me and before I start the whack-a-mole chemotherapy regimen for the next few months. That actually begins tomorrow, and no doubt my next episode will focus on that. 3 things, then, before I wrap up. My t-shirt. Got polio? Neither have I, thanks to science. A timely reminder to the knuckleheads ripping apart the United States medical and clinical research infrastructure that they are fools and that common sense and science will not be stopped. Secondly, regular subscribers of A Shot in the Arm podcast will have been inundated by daily episodes recorded between the 15th and 17th of July in Kigali, Rwanda, where we were attending the International AIDS Society's conference on HIV and science. We thought we would post them all together as a package, but over the coming weeks, I'll distribute each one again separately, with notes about the wonderful people we spoke with and the critically important subjects we addressed. So don't stress yourself into thinking you need to listen or watch them all at once, although if you want to, we'd be most happy, and would love, of course, if you whack that notification button on our YouTube channel. And finally, just before recording today, I received a wonderful message from some friends. They have created a multimedia virtual medicine cabinet with thoughts, links, and messages to keep me motivated and entertained as I embark on chemotherapy. The first one I opened was from a German friend, sometimes hysterically mistaken in the field of global health and international development as being a white South African. She gave me links to 2 German giants of pop music, Modern Talking, an 80s pop duo best enjoyed in small doses, and Rosenstolz, a more complex, exceptionally talented duo who emerged after German reunification at the start of the 90s in Berlin. I strongly recommend Rosenstolz to those who have not encountered them, Peter Platte and Anna R., who Anna sadly died in March earlier this year at the age of 55. Now, there's a story about Anna. East German by birth, she was rejected from the Friedrichshain Music School, I've probably slaughtered the name of it, performing Whitney Houston songs in her audition. She briefly tried to pursue a career as a laboratory assistant, but she met Peter in the newly reunified Berlin, and that, as they say, was that. So if by any chance you would like to send me anything at all, poems, essays, comics, pop songs, even classic rock if that's your vibe, little videos, film or series recommendations to stream, I would be deeply honoured. And you can do that by posting on the A Shot in the Arm podcast Facebook page. Well, thank you again for being on this journey with me.